Hello, my friends. I am happy you are here. Picture a bedroom. The lights are on. It is 3 a.m. A housekeeper walks slowly down a hallway. A housekeeper is a person who cleans and takes care of a home. She sees a light under a bedroom door. She knocks. No answer. She knocks again. Still nothing. Inside that room is the most photographed woman on earth. 36 years old. Dead. The official report says it was an overdose. An overdose means taking too much of a drug or medicine. Case closed. In just a few days. But the phone records are missing. The ambulance call was never logged. Logged means officially written down and recorded. And the woman who found the body changes her story. Once, twice, 3 times. Today, we will listen to the life of Marilyn Monroe. Not the poster, not the photograph on the wall, the real woman underneath. The woman who was built by a studio, sold to the world, and never truly free. By the end of this story, you will understand why people still ask questions about her death 60 years later. Take a moment to relax. Let your body be comfortable. And let this story carry you back to Hollywood in the 1940s. Before Marilyn Monroe, there was a different girl. Her name was Norma Jeane Mortensen. She was born in 1926 in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is a large city on the west coast of the United States. Her mother's name was Gladys. Gladys worked cutting film negatives. A film negative is the original piece of film that a photograph or movie is made from. She worked close to Hollywood, but she never made it inside. Gladys was not well. Her mind was sick in a way that doctors could not fix. She moved in and out of hospitals for most of her life. So Norma Jeane moved too. From house to house. From family to family. These are called foster families. A foster family is a family that takes care of a child who cannot live with their own parents. Some people count 11 different homes. Maybe more. In one orphanage, the other children were cruel to her. An orphanage is a place where children live when they have no parents to care for them. They gave her a nickname. They called her the Mattress Girl. Her bed there was thin, almost nothing. The name was meant to hurt her, and it did. At 16, she got married. His name was James Dougherty. She did not marry him for love. Her foster family was moving out of the state. If she did not marry, she would have to go back to the orphanage. So she married. At night, alone, she used to write down new names for herself. Trying different names, trying to become someone else. Norma Jeane wanted to disappear. And somewhere inside that quiet longing, a new person began to take shape. That person would soon become the most famous woman in the world. But Norma Jeane would pay a very high price for it. In 1944, a photographer visited a factory near Los Angeles. He was taking pictures for the war effort. The United States was at war, and factories were making military supplies. Military means related to soldiers and fighting. He saw a young woman inspecting parachutes. A parachute is a large piece of fabric used to slow a person falling from an airplane. Her name was Norma Jeane. The pictures sold well. A talent agent noticed her. An agent is a person whose job is to find work for artists and performers. A studio signed her. Signed means they made an official agreement to work together. And then the studio did something very specific. They gave her a new name, Marilyn Monroe. They dyed her hair platinum blonde. Platinum blonde means a very pale, almost white color of blonde. They fixed her teeth. They sent her to a voice coach. A voice coach is a teacher who helps people speak in a different or better way. They wanted her voice softer, slower, more gentle. 20th Century Fox owned the name now. They owned the walk. They owned the laugh. Practiced, recorded, studied like a formula. A formula is a fixed method or system that always produces the same result. She signed a contract. A contract is a legal agreement between two people or organizations. 7 years. The studio could end her contract in 30 days. She could not leave without their permission. Permission means official approval to do something. By 1953, she was a star. 3 films in 1 year. Niagara, Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, How to Marry a Millionaire. Audiences loved her. Audiences means groups of people watching a film or show. She was making the studio millions of dollars. Her own paycheck? $500 a week. Less than some of the supporting actors in her own films. She was the product. She was not the owner. And she was beginning to understand the difference. She asked for more money. The studio said no. She asked for better scripts. Scripts are the written text of a film, including all the dialogue and actions. She wanted roles with depth. Depth means complexity and meaning, not just surface appearance. She was tired of playing the same character. The pretty blonde who did not think. The studio said no again. So in 1954, she did something almost no actress dared to do. She walked away. She moved to New York. She studied acting at a school called the Actors Studio. The Actors Studio was one of the most respected acting schools in America. She started her own production company. A production company is a business that creates films or television shows. The newspapers laughed at her. One headline read, "Dumb Blonde Has Brains." A headline is the large title at the top of a newspaper article. It worked anyway. The studio came back. They offered a new contract. More money. More control over which films she made. But a contract is paper. A signature is ink. The studio still decided who photographed her. Which interviews happened. Which version of Marilyn the public was allowed to see. Late one night, she told a friend something quiet. Marilyn is like a veil I wear over Norma Jeane. A veil is a thin piece of fabric that covers something. She was saying that Marilyn was a costume. Something she put on. Something she could also take off. But the studio was never interested in Norma Jeane. Norma Jeane did not sell tickets. In 1954, she married Joe DiMaggio. DiMaggio was one of the most famous baseball players in American history. He was also a man who wanted a wife at home. He wanted someone quiet, someone private. He did not want a movie star. He wanted a woman who belonged to him. The marriage lasted 9 months. The breaking point came during a film called The 7-Year Itch. In one scene, Marilyn stood over a subway grate. A subway grate is a metal opening in the street above underground train tunnels. The air from below blew her white dress up. Thousands of people watched from the street. Cameras filmed it. DiMaggio watched too. What he felt was not pride. He was furious. They divorced shortly after. Divorced means legally ended a marriage. Years later, she married again. His name was Arthur Miller. Miller was a famous playwright. A playwright is a person who writes plays for the theater. Different man, same problem. Miller studied her. He wrote her into his work. He analyzed her like a subject. Analyzed means examined carefully and in detail. And somewhere inside that analysis, she stopped feeling like a wife. She felt like a character in someone else's story. They divorced in 1961. By then, there were rumors. Rumors means stories that people share, but that are not confirmed as true. Frank Sinatra. The Kennedy brothers, President John F. Kennedy, and his brother Robert. In May 1962, she sang Happy Birthday to the President. Madison Square Garden. A dress so tight, she had to be sewn into it. Sewn means stitched together with thread by a person using a needle. The whole country watched. Jackie Kennedy, the president's wife, did not attend. She skipped the event completely. What really happened between Marilyn and the Kennedys? Nobody fully agrees. FBI files, released decades later, show surveillance on her. Surveillance means watching someone closely and secretly. Large parts of those files are blacked out. Blacked out means covered, so that the text cannot be read. Nobody knows exactly what they were watching for. The woman, who was built to be watched, was being watched in ways she never agreed to. Here is something the photographs never showed. Marilyn Monroe owned over 400 books. She kept reading lists. She studied Russian literature, psychology, and poetry. Russian literature means books and stories written by authors from Russia. Psychology means the study of the human mind and behavior. The poet Carl Sandburg visited her once at her home. He later said she had one of the sharpest minds he had ever encountered in Hollywood. Encountered means met or come across. In 1955, she co-founded her own production company. Co-founded means started together with another person. She was one of the first actresses in Hollywood history to own her own projects. She negotiated profit shares before most actresses even knew that was possible. Negotiated means discussed and agreed on the terms of a deal. Profit shares means receiving a percentage of the money a film earns. And she struggled, nights without sleep, one after another. Insomnia is the condition of being unable to sleep regularly. Prescription pills that started as a way to rest. A prescription is a written order from a doctor for medicine. And slowly, the pills became something harder to control. A psychiatrist named Ralph Greenson saw her almost every day. A psychiatrist is a doctor who specializes in mental health. Years later, his name would become one of the most studied parts of her story. Friends who knew her described two different women. On set, she was electric. Electric means full of energy and excitement, like a current in the air. A room full of people, and every single one of them was watching only her. At home, alone, she was afraid of the dark. She called people at 3 a.m, just to hear a voice, just to know someone was there. 2 women, 1 face, and the face was always Marilyn. By 1962, the cracks were visible, even on camera. She was filming a movie called Something's Got to Give. She missed days of work, first a few, then too many. In June, the studio fired her. They replaced her with another actress. Her weight changed week to week. Her hands shook during scenes. Crew members noticed she sometimes forgot lines she had known perfectly the day before. Crew members are the people who work on a film set behind the camera. Behind the scenes, her finances were complicated. Finances means the management of money. Her visits to Dr. Greenson increased. Daily, sometimes. That was unusual, even for Hollywood in the 1960s. Quietly, the studio started talking to her again. A new contract. Lower pay. New conditions. She agreed. The signing was set for August. Weeks before her death, she spoke to a reporter. She said she felt hopeful. New film. New deal. Maybe even Joe DiMaggio coming back into her life. DiMaggio had never fully stopped loving her. He still sent her flowers regularly. She sounded like a woman who believed things were turning around. Then, August 4th arrived. The timeline of that final night has never fully made sense. Her psychiatrist, Dr. Greenson, visited her earlier in the evening. An unusual house call. A house call is when a doctor travels to a patient's home instead of seeing them at a clinic. Peter Lawford, an actor and relative of the Kennedy family, called her later that night. A relative is a person who is part of the same family. He said she sounded slow, distant, like someone drifting away. Her housekeeper, Eunice Murray, said she saw the light under the bedroom door around midnight. But the call to the police did not come until after 4 in the morning. A gap of hours. No one at the scene has ever fully explained it. The coroner ruled it probable suicide. A coroner is an official who investigates unexplained deaths. Cause of death: an overdose of barbiturates. Barbiturates are a type of strong sedative drug. A sedative is a medicine that makes a person feel calm or puts them to sleep. No suicide note was found. The amount of drugs in her system was extremely high. So high that some pathologists who studied the case decades later began to ask questions. A pathologist is a doctor who studies the causes of disease and death. They asked whether it was physically possible for her to have taken that much herself. Robert Kennedy's location that night became a question on its own. Phone records from her house for that specific day disappeared from the telephone company's files. No one has ever proven foul play. Foul play means criminal activity or deliberate harm, but no piece of evidence has ever fully closed the case either. What is certain is this: a woman who spent her whole life being built, packaged, and consumed by an industry died alone, in a small house, lights on, door locked. Her name was Marilyn. But the woman inside that room was Norma Jeane. Marilyn Monroe died more than 60 years ago. But the world still knows her face. It is on posters, on walls, on screens, everywhere. And most people who see that face know the smile, the platinum hair, the dress blowing in the wind. Very few people stop to ask about the woman underneath. Norma Jeane spent her whole life trying to be seen, really seen, as a person with a mind, with fears, with books on her shelf and poetry she loved. The industry gave her something powerful: fame, a name, a face the world recognized. And the industry took something from her just as quietly: her name, her privacy, and eventually, her sense of who she was. She also shows us something about strength that is easy to miss. Most people remember Marilyn as a symbol: soft, glamorous, passive. But Norma Jeane walked away from a studio that owned her. She moved to a new city alone. She started her own company. She negotiated deals. She read 400 books. She studied the craft of acting at one of the best schools in the world. She did all of that while carrying a weight most people never saw. You are here today. You are listening to this story in English. Maybe English is not your first language. Maybe some words were new for you today. Maybe some parts were difficult to follow, but you stayed. You listened all the way to the end. Norma Jeane would have understood that. She spent years doing exactly what you are doing right now, learning something hard, practicing something unfamiliar, becoming someone she could not yet fully see. Every story you listen to in English makes you a little stronger. Every word you understand opens something new. Keep going, my friends. Keep listening. Keep learning. You are doing something that matters. If this story stayed with you, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel. It is free, and your subscription helps us create more stories like this one for you. If you enjoyed the video, please click the like button. It helps other people find us. It helps our community grow. And please, leave us a comment below. Tell us, do you think the official story of Marilyn Monroe's death tells the whole truth? I would love to read your answer. Until our next story, take care of yourself. Be kind to others. And never stop learning. I will see you very soon. Goodbye for now, my friends.